Director Halth pressed his thin fingers against the glass observation panel and watched the creature pace inside its containment cell. The Shraketh moved like liquid shadow, 8 feet of pure predatory design. Its black chitinous plates caught the dim light, creating an oil-slick shimmer across its body. Multiple rows of crystalline teeth lined its elongated jaw when it turned its head toward him. 6 amber eyes blinked in sequence, analyzing him as potential prey. Beautiful, is it not? The creature's designer, a smaller Velrathi named Peln, stood beside Halth with obvious pride. 15 generations of accelerated evolution, bioengineered specifically to trigger the deepest fear responses in humanoid species. Halth did not share the sentiment. Beauty was irrelevant. Results mattered. The Velrathi Empire had been locked in a cold war with humanity for 3 years now. These persistent mammals kept expanding into contested territories, establishing mining colonies on asteroids that rightfully belonged to the Empire. Direct military action would be costly and draw unwanted attention from other galactic powers. But psychological warfare? That left no evidence, no treaty violations. "Show me the target again," Halth commanded. A holographic display materialized between them. The face of a human male appeared, rotating slowly. Pale skin, brown hair that looked unkempt, tired eyes with dark circles beneath them. The data scrolled beside the image. Owen Fletcher, age 32, maintenance technician, assigned to Mining Colony Outpost 7 on asteroid K247. Currently 14 months into an 18-month solo rotation. Psychological profile indicated extreme isolation. His communication logs showed weekly messages to family on Earth, but the delay meant real conversation was impossible. He talked to himself during work shifts. He had started naming the machinery. "Perfect specimen," Peln said with satisfaction. His mind is already fragile from loneliness. When the Shraketh appears, his psychological break will be swift and complete. Word will spread through the colony network. Other humans will request transfers. Within 6 months, they will abandon the entire sector. Halth studied the human's face more carefully. Owen Fletcher looked sad, not weak. There was a difference. But Peln was the expert, and the plan was sound. One broken human to save thousands of Velrathi lives that would be lost in open combat. "Prepare the dimensional rift," Halth ordered. "Deploy the Shraketh tonight during his sleep cycle. I want fear readings transmitted in real time." The creature was sedated and fitted with a monitoring collar that would track its location and the ambient fear levels of nearby organisms. Halth watched as the rift technicians worked their equipment, tearing a small hole through folded space. The Shraketh would emerge directly inside the human's habitat module, in the darkness where primal terror would do the rest. The rift opened like a wound in reality, purple energy crackling at its edges. The Shraketh woke from sedation and immediately sensed prey on the other side. Its throat sacs inflated, bioluminescent patterns flaring across its hide in anticipation. Then it leaped through the portal and the rift sealed behind it. Halth returned to his monitoring station and activated the view screen. Multiple data streams appeared, showing the creature's vital signs, location tracking, and most importantly, the fear detection readings. The Shraketh had evolved to feed on terror itself. The more afraid its prey became, the stronger and more aggressive it grew. A perfect feedback loop of predator and victim. The creature's location showed it materializing inside a storage closet within Owen Fletcher's quarters. Good. It would wait there. Let the human hear the sounds first. Scratching. Chittering. The Shraketh was intelligent enough to build psychological tension before revealing itself. Hours passed. Halth waited patiently, reviewing reports from other operations. Finally, the proximity sensors indicated movement. Owen Fletcher had returned from his maintenance shift. Halth leaned forward, watching the data streams intensify. The Shraketh's heart rate increased. Its bioluminescent patterns began their threat display sequence. The fear sensors activated, ready to measure the human's response. Any moment now, the screaming would begin. Owen Fletcher stood in the narrow corridor of his HAB unit and listened to the strange sound coming from his living quarters. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Like metal on metal, but organic somehow. His first thought was equipment failure. Some bearing had probably worn out in the air recycling system again. He was always fixing something in this old facility. He walked through the small kitchen area where his dinner tray still sat unwashed. Past the fold-down desk where he wrote messages to his sister that would take 3 weeks to reach Earth. into the cramped space that served as bedroom, bathroom, and storage combined. The scratching grew louder. Definitely coming from the closet, Owen approached slowly, wrench in hand out of habit. He pressed the panel release and the closet door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Something moved in the darkness. Owen fumbled for the light control and the overhead panel flickered on. For a moment, he could not process what he was seeing. His brain tried to categorize it as equipment, as shadow, as anything that made sense. Then it moved again, and Owen understood he was looking at a living creature. It was huge, nearly filling the entire closet space. Black armored hide that seemed to absorb light. Too many eyes all fixed on him. A mouth that opened to reveal rows upon rows of needle-sharp teeth. The thing made a sound, a deep subsonic rumble that Owen felt in his chest. Back on the Velrathi ship, Halth stared at his displays in confusion. The fear sensors showed nothing. 0 readings. That was impossible. The Shraketh was in full threat display. The human was standing 3 feet away from certain death. Owen looked at the creature wedged into his closet and felt something unexpected. Not fear, curiosity, and something else, something that had been absent from his life for 14 months. The thing looked just as confused as he felt. It had stopped growling and was watching him with what almost seemed like uncertainty. One of its smaller limbs twitched. The bioluminescent patterns on its hide pulsed erratically, like it did not know what to do. "Hey there," Owen said softly. His voice sounded strange. He had not spoken to anything alive in so long. "You lost, buddy?" The creature made a snuffling sound and sneezed, a full-body sneeze that rattled its chitinous plates and made it look, just for a second, almost ridiculous. Owen smiled. Actually smiled. "I'm going to call you Mr. Fluffles," he said. "You hungry, Mr. Fluffles?" On the monitoring station, alarms began to sound. But they were not fear alarms. They were error messages. The system could not comprehend what it was detecting. The readings made no sense. Director Halth watched in disbelief as Owen Fletcher walked to his kitchen and returned with a protein bar. The human unwrapped it and held it out toward the deadliest predator the Velrathi had ever created. And the Shraketh, programmed to hunt and terrify, confused by the complete absence of fear, cautiously leaned forward and accepted the offering. 7 days had passed since Mr. Fluffles appeared in Owen's closet, and Owen had never been happier. He sat at his fold-down desk, typing a message to his sister Rachel back on Earth, actually smiling as he wrote. "You would not believe what happened," he typed. "I know you said I should get a pet to help with the loneliness, but station regulations are pretty strict. Well, turns out a pet found me instead. I named him Mr. Fluffles. He's a bit unusual looking, but he's great company. I'll try to send pictures if I can get him to sit still long enough." Owen paused, knowing he could not actually send pictures. How would he explain what Mr. Fluffles really was? Even he did not understand it. The creature was clearly not from Earth, not from anywhere humans had explored, but it had shown up and Owen had decided not to question the gift. Behind him, Mr. Fluffles made a chirping sound from where he was curled up on the thermal blankets Owen had arranged into a bed. The creature had barely fit in the closet that first night, but now he seemed content to sleep in the corner of the living space. His chitinous plates had smoothed out slightly over the week, losing some of their sharp edges. The bioluminescent patterns on his hide had changed too. Instead of the angry red pulsing from that first night, they now glowed a soft blue-green, almost peaceful. Owen finished his message and turned around. "Want to go for a walk, buddy?" Mr. Fluffles raised his head, all 6 eyes blinking at different intervals. Owen had learned to read some of his expressions. This one meant interest. "Come on then." They moved through the HAB unit together. Owen had discovered that Mr. Fluffles could change his size somehow, compressing his body down to something more manageable. Right now he was only about 4 feet long instead of 8, making it easier to navigate the narrow corridors. His claws clicked on the metal flooring as he followed Owen toward the maintenance access tunnels. These tunnels ran throughout the entire mining colony, connecting all the major systems. Owen spent most of his work shifts down here, repairing coolant lines, replacing worn cables, checking pressure seals. It was lonely work. Had been lonely work. Now he had company. "See this junction here?" Owen pointed to a cluster of pipes. "This is the main water recycling system. Breaks down all the time because the filters get clogged with mineral deposits." Mr. Fluffles leaned in close, examining the pipes with apparent interest. He made a low humming sound. I know it's boring stuff, Owen continued, but someone has to keep everything running. Colony has about 200 people depending on these systems. Well, 201 now, counting you. They continued through the tunnels. Owen showed Mr. Fluffles the backup power generators, the air processing units, the waste management systems. He talked through everything, just happy to have someone to talk to. Mr. Fluffles listened, or at least seemed to listen. His head would tilt at certain words. His eyes would focus when Owen pointed at something specific. Back on the Velrothi monitoring ship, Director Halt sat surrounded by displays showing data streams he still could not comprehend. The Shraketh's biological readings had changed dramatically over the past week. Its aggression hormones had dropped to near zero. Its hunting instincts appeared to be dormant. Most disturbing of all, it was exhibiting behaviors associated with pack bonding. Explain this, Halth demanded, gesturing at the screens. Your creature has completely failed its mission. Pellin, the designer, studied the data with obvious confusion. The Shraketh bonds to emotional energy. It was designed to detect fear and amplify it, creating a feedback loop. But this human shows no fear. None. The creature's programming is trying to adapt, but it is adapting in the wrong direction. How is this possible? Halth's voice was sharp with frustration. The human is lonely, another analyst spoke up, a younger Velrothi named Quinn who specialized in xenopsychology. Look at his behavioral patterns. He has been isolated for over a year. When the Shraketh appeared, instead of seeing a predator, he saw companionship. His emotional response was joy, not terror. Joy? Halth repeated the word like it was a disease. The Shraketh feeds on strong emotions, Quinn explained. We designed it to feed on fear. But fear and joy operate on similar neurological pathways in many species. The creature is bonding to the human's happiness. It is receiving positive reinforcement for non-threatening behavior. Halth watched the monitor showing Owen and the Shraketh walking through maintenance tunnels together. The human was gesturing at pipes and talking. The creature was following him like a devoted pet. This was not war. This was not terror. This was friendship. Can we recall it? Halth asked. Not for another 2 months, Pellin admitted. The dimensional rift technology requires significant energy. We can only create stable portals once per cycle. Then we wait, Halth said grimly, and monitor. Perhaps the human's mental break will manifest differently than expected. But even as he said it, Halth doubted his own words. The data showed something unprecedented. Something his military training had not prepared him for. Back in the HAB unit, Owen pulled out his personal supply locker and retrieved his hobby materials. Knitting needles and yarn. His sister had taught him years ago, said it would help with stress. During the long, isolated months, he had knitted scarves, hats, gloves. Things to send home as gifts. Things to keep his hands busy when the loneliness got too heavy. I had an idea, Owen said to Mr. Fluffles, who had settled back onto his blanket bed. You get cold down in those maintenance tunnels. I felt you shivering near the coolant lines. Mr. Fluffles tilted his head, watching as Owen began measuring him with a tape measure. The creature held still, seeming to understand this was important to his human. This is going to take a while, Owen warned, already calculating measurements in his head. But I think I can make you something comfortable. A sweater, maybe. Something to keep you warm. He started with dark blue yarn, something that would complement Mr. Fluffles' natural coloring. The needles clicked together in a steady rhythm. Click, 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 the same sound as Mr. Fluffles' claws on the metal floor. A companionable sound. Mr. Fluffles watched his human work, the bioluminescent patterns on his hide pulsing gently in time with the clicking needles. His biology was changing in ways his creators never intended. The aggression was fading. The hunting instinct was redirecting. He was becoming something new, something that wanted to protect rather than terrify. Something that understood, in whatever way his altered brain could process, that this human had given him something no prey had ever offered before. Kindness, acceptance, a name. 3 hours later, Owen held up the finished sweater. It was simple, a tube of knitted fabric with holes for Mr. Fluffles' limbs, dark blue with light blue trim. Come here, let's try it on. Mr. Fluffles approached cautiously. Owen gently worked the sweater over his head, adjusting it around his chitinous plates, pulling it down over his torso. It fit perfectly. Mr. Fluffles looked down at himself, then up at Owen. His throat sacs inflated slightly, but instead of a growl, he made a sound like a purr. Deep and rumbling in content, Owen laughed. Actually laughed. "You look ridiculous," he said. "And I love it." On the monitoring ship, alarms sounded again. The Shraketh's biological markers were showing something impossible. The creature was happy. The warning klaxon shrieked through the maintenance tunnels and Owen dropped his wrench. Red emergency lights began flashing in sequence along the corridor walls. His tablet screen showed the problem immediately. Pressure breach in Section 7. Critical failure cascading to adjacent systems. Owen ran. His boots hammered against metal grating as he navigated through the maze of pipes and conduits. Section 7 was near the colony's main oxygen processing plant. A breach there could kill everyone if it reached the wrong junction. He had maybe 3 minutes before the backup systems failed. He rounded a corner and saw it. A coolant pipe had ruptured, spraying supercooled liquid across the corridor. The intense cold had cracked a pressure seal on the oxygen line. Atmosphere was venting into space through a gap that was growing wider every second. The emergency bulkhead doors were not closing because the control circuits had frozen solid. No, Owen muttered, already calculating solutions. He needed to seal that breach, reset the bulkhead controls, and reroute the coolant before the whole section explosive decompressed. One person could not do all three fast enough. Something moved in the shadows behind him. Mr. Fluffles emerged from a ventilation shaft Owen had not even noticed. The creature had followed him somehow, sensing distress. He was not wearing his blue sweater now. His chitinous plates had expanded back to their full size, making him look every bit the predator he was designed to be. "You should not be here," Owen started to say, but Mr. Fluffles was already moving past him toward the breach. The creature's body began to shift in ways Owen had never seen before. His solid form seemed to blur at the edges. Becoming semi-transparent, Mr. Fluffles pushed himself directly into the gap where atmosphere was, screaming out into vacuum, and he held. Owen watched in amazement as Mr. Fluffles phased himself partially into the wall structure itself, using his body as a living seal. The venting stopped. The pressure stabilized, but Owen could see the strain. Mr. Fluffles' bioluminescent patterns flashed red with effort, his entire body trembling from the cold and the force of the escaping air. "Hold on, buddy," Owen shouted over the alarms. "Just hold on." He worked frantically on the control panel, bypassing the frozen circuits, manually triggering the bulkhead sequence. The massive doors groaned and began to close, segmenting off the damaged section. Owen then grabbed his emergency patch kit and scrambled up the wall, bracing to reach the oxygen line. His hands shook from adrenaline and cold as he applied the industrial sealant. The material hardened on contact, forming a temporary but solid bond over the crack. Not a permanent fix, but enough to stop the immediate crisis. "Done," Owen gasped. "You can let go now." Mr. Fluffles held position for another moment, making sure the seal was secure, then slowly phased back to solid form and dropped to the floor. He collapsed immediately, his entire body shaking. Ice crystals covered his chitinous plates. His breathing sounded labored, each exhale producing visible fog in the cold air. Owen dropped down beside him. Hey, you okay?" He ran his hands over Mr. Fluffles' body, checking for damage. The creature's hide was freezing to the touch. "We need to get you warm." He dragged out emergency thermal blankets from a storage locker and wrapped them around Mr. Fluffles. The creature made a weak chirping sound, his eyes blinking slowly out of sync. Owen had never seen him this vulnerable before. "You saved everyone," Owen said quietly, pulling Mr. Fluffles' head onto his lap. "You understand that? 200 people would be dead right now if not for you." Mr. Fluffles' bioluminescent patterns flickered weakly, shifting from red to a pale blue, then back to red. His body was trying to regulate its temperature but struggling. Owen activated his comm unit. "Fletcher to control. Emergency breach in Section 7 is contained. I need a medical transport to my location immediately." "Medical for you?" Supervisor Nira Okoye's voice came back, concerned. "Are you injured?" Owen hesitated. How did he explain this? "Not for me. I have a situation. Just send the transport, please." He stayed with Mr. Fluffles for the 20 minutes it took for the transport sled to arrive, talking to him the whole time, about how brave he was, how smart, how grateful Owen felt. Mr. Fluffles' eyes never left Owen's face, even as his body slowly stopped shaking and warmth returned to his hide. By the time the automated transport arrived, Mr. Fluffles had recovered enough to compress himself down to his smaller size. Owen loaded him onto the sled, piled more thermal blankets around him, and guided the transport back to his HAB unit through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where other people might see. Back in his quarters, Owen set up a heating unit near Mr. Fluffles' bed and adjusted it to a comfortable temperature. He retrieved the blue sweater and carefully dressed the creature again, pulling it snug to help retain body heat. "You did not have to do that," Owen said, sitting on the floor beside Mr. Fluffles. "You could have stayed hidden, could have stayed safe." Mr. Fluffles raised one clawed hand and placed it gently on Owen's arm. The gesture was so human, so full of clear intention that Owen felt tears prick at his eyes. "You protected me," Owen realized. "Not just me. Everyone. You protected all of us." On the Velrathi monitoring ship, chaos had erupted in the command center. Director Halth stood before displays showing the Shraketh's vital signs during the breach incident. The creature had nearly died, had willingly put itself between danger and a colony full of humans, had sacrificed its own safety to protect them. "This is not possible," Peln kept repeating, staring at the biological data. "The Shraketh has no protective instincts. It is a predator. It kills. It does not save." "It does now," Quinn said quietly, reviewing the behavioral analysis. "It has imprinted on the human. Completely bonded. The creature now perceives the human's colony as its pack, its territory to defend." Halth felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest. Not quite guilt, but close. He had sent a weapon to break a lonely human's mind. Instead, that human had somehow transformed the weapon into a guardian, into something that chose to protect rather than destroy. "We have created something dangerous," Halth said slowly. "The Shraketh?" Pelin asked. "No," Halth shook his head. "We have shown humanity how to turn weapons into allies, how to reshape aggression into devotion. If they can do this with a Shraketh, what else might they domesticate?" The question hung in the air unanswered. Back in the HAB unit, Owen pulled a blanket over himself and leaned back against Mr. Fluffles' side. The creature's body temperature had fully returned, and he radiated comfortable warmth. His purring rumble vibrated through Owen's entire body. "I was so alone before you got here," Owen admitted into the quiet. "I did not realize how bad it was until I had someone to share it with. You changed everything, Mr. Fluffles." The creature shifted slightly, adjusting so Owen could lean more comfortably against him. His bioluminescent patterns glowed soft blue-green in the dim light of the HAB unit. Peaceful, content, home. Owen closed his eyes and, for the first time in months, felt completely safe. Because he knew with absolute certainty that Mr. Fluffles would protect him. Would protect everyone, not because of programming or instinct, but because of something deeper. Because they were friends and friends kept each other safe. Nira Okoye had been colony supervisor for 6 years, and she prided herself on noticing details. So when Owen Fletcher started showing up to their weekly check-ins actually smiling, she paid attention. When his maintenance reports became more thorough and upbeat, she grew curious. When he stopped looking like a man slowly drowning in isolation, she decided to investigate. She stood outside his HAB unit now, tablet in hand, reviewing his recent activity logs. Everything was normal. Too normal. Owen had not requested a single mental health consultation in the past month, after filing 3 the month before. His efficiency ratings had gone up. His communication frequency had doubled. Something had changed, and Nira needed to know what. She pressed the door chime. "Just a minute," Owen's voice called from inside. She heard shuffling, something heavy moving, a muffled thump. The door slid open and Owen appeared, slightly out of breath, blocking the entrance with his body. "Supervisor Okoye, hi. Is it check-in day already?" "It is," Nira said, studying his face. He looked nervous. "May I come in?" "Oh, now is not really a great time. Could we maybe do this in the conference room instead?" Nira's curiosity intensified. "Is there a problem with your quarters, Fletcher?" "No, everything is fine. Just, personal space is kind of messy right now." Over Owen's shoulder, Nira spotted something that did not belong in a standard HAB unit. A large pile of thermal blankets arranged like a nest in the corner. A food bowl on the floor. What looked like a hand-knitted sweater draped over a chair, far too large for any human. "Owen," Nira said carefully, "do you have an animal in there?" "Define animal." "Fletcher." Owen's shoulders slumped. "Okay, look, I can explain. But you have to promise not to freak out." I am a colony supervisor. I do not freak out. Step aside. Owen hesitated, then moved out of the doorway. Nira walked into the HAB unit and immediately noticed the temperature was warmer than regulation standard. The lighting was dimmed, and the pile of thermal blankets in the corner was definitely moving. What is that? Nira asked. Before Owen could answer, Mr. Fluffles emerged from the blankets. He had been sleeping, and Nira's arrival had disturbed him. He stretched, all four limbs extending, his spine arching. The blue sweater he wore pulled tight across his chitinous plates. 6 amber eyes focused on the new person in his territory. Nira froze. Her brain tried to process what she was seeing. Large, armored, multiple eyes, teeth, many teeth. This was not a cat. This was not a dog. This was not anything from any colony import list. Please do not scream, Owen said quickly, positioning himself between Nira and Mr. Fluffles. His name is Mr. Fluffles. He is friendly. He is not going to hurt you. That, Nira said slowly, her voice remarkably steady, is not possible. That thing should not exist on this station. I know, but he does. And he is wonderful. Owen turned to Mr. Fluffles. It is okay, buddy. This is Nira. She is a friend. Mr. Fluffles tilted his head, studying Nira with clear intelligence. His bioluminescent patterns pulsed a questioning yellow-orange. He took one step forward, then stopped when Nira flinched. How long has this been here? Nira demanded. About 3 weeks now. 3 weeks. You have had an unregistered alien organism in your quarters for 3 weeks. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. Because it is bad, Fletcher. This is a massive violation of quarantine protocols. We have no idea what diseases this thing might carry, what threat it might pose. He is not a threat, Owen insisted. He saved the colony during that pressure breach last week. He used his body to seal the leak while I made repairs. He is a hero. Nira's expression shifted from alarm to confusion. That was you? The report said you single-handedly contained a critical breach. I had help. Mr. Fluffles made a low chirping sound and moved closer to Owen, pressing against his leg. The gesture was so clearly protective, so obviously affectionate, that Nira felt her assessment shift slightly. He is bonded to you, she observed. Yes, and I am bonded to him. Nira, I was falling apart before he showed up. You know, the isolation was killing me. But Mr. Fluffles changed everything. I have a reason to get up now. Someone to talk to, someone who cares. Nira watched Owen's hand absently stroke the top of Mr. Fluffles' head, between the first and second pair of eyes. The creature's bioluminescent pattern shifted to peaceful blue-green, his eyes half-closing in contentment. Where did he come from? Nira asked. I do not know. He just appeared in my closet one night. I think maybe he was just as lost and lonely as I was. Nira approached slowly, hand extended. Mr. Fluffles watched her carefully but did not retreat. She let him sniff her hand, the way you would with an earth dog. His breath was warm, smelling faintly of metal and something sharp like ozone. He is wearing a sweater, Nira said. I made it for him. Gets cold in the maintenance tunnels. Despite everything, despite the regulations and protocols and the absolute insanity of the situation, Nira felt a smile tug at her lips. You knitted your alien monster a sweater. He is not a monster. He is Mr. Fluffles. Mr. Fluffles, as if understanding his name, made a pleased, trilling sound and pushed his head under Nira's hand, demanding pets. Nira, operating on pure instinct, scratched behind what might have been his ears. This is insane, she muttered. But she kept petting him. I know. I should report this immediately. I know. Quarantine the creature. Run tests. Contact xenobiology teams. Please don't. Nira looked at Owen. Really looked at him. The man who had been slowly disappearing into depression for months was standing straight now. Color in his face. Life in his eyes. All because of this bizarre creature that wore sweaters and apparently saved colonies. I need to think about this, Nira said finally. But Fletcher, if anyone else discovers Mr. Fluffles before I figure out what to do, I cannot protect you. Or him. I understand. Thank you, Nira. She moved toward the door, then paused. Does he do any tricks? Owen grinned. Mr. Fluffles, fetch. Owen tossed a rubber maintenance tool across the room. Mr. Fluffles bounded after it with surprising speed, grabbed it in his jaws, and returned to drop it at Owen's feet. He sat back on his haunches, looking pleased with himself. "Good boy," Owen said, and Mr. Fluffles' entire body seemed to vibrate with happiness. Nira shook her head in disbelief. "I am putting in for hazard pay." After she left, Owen knelt down beside Mr. Fluffles. That went better than expected. Mr. Fluffles bumped his head against Owen's chest, purring. On the Velrothi monitoring ship, Director Health added another note to his growing file on the situation. Another human now knew about the Shreketh. Instead of reporting it, instead of destroying it, she had pet it. Actually pet it, and the creature had accepted her touch. "The bonding is spreading," Quinn observed. First the primary target, now his supervisor. The Shreketh is integrating into human social structures. "How many more before this becomes irreversible?" Health asked. "I believe it already is irreversible," Quinn replied. "The creature is no longer a Shreketh." "Not really. It has become something new. Something humans created through their impossible capacity for affection." Halth stared at the monitors showing Owen and Mr. Fluffles playing a game of fetch in the small hab unit. A weapon of terror, now a pet that fetched toys and wore sweaters. "The Empire will not believe this," Halth said quietly. "No," Quinn agreed. "They will not. But it was happening anyway. And there was nothing Director Halth could do to stop it." The notification came through on a secure channel 2 weeks later. Nira sat in her office reading the message 3 times, her stomach sinking with each pass. Council Overseer Meln of the Velrothi Empire would be arriving at the colony in 48 hours to discuss territorial negotiations. Full diplomatic security detail. Formal inspection of facilities required. She immediately called Owen to her office. "They are coming here?" Owen asked, going pale. "The Velrothi, why?" "Official reason is territorial negotiations," Nira said. "We have been in disputed space for years. This was bound to happen eventually. But Owen, they will inspect everything. Every hab unit, every facility. They will find Mr. Fluffles." Owen sat heavily in the chair across from her desk. "We have to hide him." "Where?" "The colony is not that big, and their security scans are thorough. The maintenance tunnels. There are sections that do not show up on standard schematics. Old mining shafts, sealed conduits. I know places." Nira wanted to argue, to tell him this was impossible. But she had spent the past 2 weeks secretly researching Mr. Fluffles, running discreet scans, observing his behavior. The creature was remarkable. Intelligent, loyal, protective. And Owen was right. If the Velrothi discovered him, they would take him away. Or worse, 48 hours, Nira said. Make it work. Owen spent the next 2 days preparing. He gathered supplies, food, water, thermal blankets, entertainment items. He mapped out a route through the maintenance tunnels to an old storage chamber that had been sealed off years ago due to minor radiation leaks. Nothing dangerous, but enough to keep it off inspection lists. The hardest part was explaining it to Mr. Fluffles. "You have to stay hidden for a little while," Owen said, kneeling in front of the creature. Mr. Fluffles tilted his head, all 6 eyes focused on Owen's face. "Some people are coming and they cannot know you are here. It is not because you did anything wrong. It is just complicated." Mr. Fluffles made a questioning chirp. "I know I do not like it either, but it is just for a few days. I will visit you as much as I can. I promise." Owen led Mr. Fluffles through the maintenance tunnels to the sealed chamber. He had set up a comfortable space with blankets, food dispensers, and toys. Mr. Fluffles explored the area, sniffing at corners, testing the boundaries. "I will come back tonight," Owen promised. "And tomorrow morning before the inspection. You will be okay here." But as Owen turned to leave, Mr. Fluffles made a sound Owen had never heard before. A whine high-pitched and distressed. The creature followed him to the door, pressing against his legs. "I have to go," Owen said, his voice breaking slightly. "I am sorry. I am so sorry." He sealed the door and walked away, each step feeling heavier than the last. The Velrothi delegation arrived exactly on schedule. Overseer Meln was tall even by Velrothi standards, his skin a darker shade of gray-blue, his robes marking him as high-ranking. Behind him came security officers and, to Owen's shock, Director Halth himself. Owen stood in the receiving bay with other key colony personnel, trying to appear calm. Nira gave a formal welcome speech. Overseer Meln responded with diplomatic pleasantries. The whole time, Owen could not stop thinking about Mr. Fluffles alone in that sealed chamber. The inspection began. Overseer Meln's delegation moved through the colony systematically, examining systems, reviewing records, scanning for unauthorized modifications. Owen shadowed them during the maintenance systems review, answering technical questions, explaining repair protocols. Everything was going smoothly until one of the Velrathi security officers stopped in a corridor near Section 7. The officer's scanning device began emitting a strange tone. Biological signature detected, the officer announced. Unknown species, large, close proximity. Owen's heart stopped. Location? Halth demanded, stepping forward. Difficult to determine precisely. The signature is moving. It appears distressed. Owen knew immediately what was happening. Mr. Fluffles was agitated from being separated. His emotional state was strong enough to register on their scanners even through the sealed chamber walls. Probably just a malfunction, Owen said quickly. These old systems create false readings all the time. But the security officer's companion, a massive creature on a leash that Owen had assumed was just for show, suddenly became alert. It was something like a wolf but larger, with scaled skin and too many legs. The thing pulled against its restraints, sniffing the air, focusing on the direction of the sealed chamber. That is not a malfunction, Halth said quietly, watching his creature's reaction. There is something here. The security team moved forward following their scanners. Owen had no choice but to guide them, his mind racing for any excuse, any explanation that might work. They reached the sealed chamber. The biological signature was strongest here. The wolf creature was nearly frantic now, scratching at the door, growling. Open it, Overseer Meln commanded. This section is sealed due to radiation contamination, Owen tried. Not safe for, open it now. Owen entered his override code with shaking hands. The door unsealed with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The wolf creature lunged forward, pulling its handler with it. Inside the chamber, Mr. Fluffles stood in the center of the space. Plates expanded to full size, bioluminescent patterns flashing red in alarm. When he saw the wolf creature charging at him, his mouth opened to reveal all those crystalline teeth. But he did not attack. He backed away, defensive but not aggressive. The wolf creature crashed into the chamber, breaking free of its leash. It cornered Mr. Fluffles against the far wall, snapping and snarling. Mr. Fluffles could have killed it easily, Owen knew. But he did not. He just curled into himself, trying to make himself smaller, less threatening because Owen had taught him gentleness. No, Owen shouted, pushing past the Velrathi security officers. He ran into the chamber and threw himself between the wolf creature and Mr. Fluffles. Stop. Do not hurt him. The wolf creature's jaws were inches from Owen's face. Hot breath, sharp teeth, certain death. But Owen did not move. He spread his arms wide, shielding Mr. Fluffles with his own body. Stand down! Overseer Meln's voice cut through the chaos. The wolf creature's handler managed to grab its collar and pull it back, though it continued to growl and strain. Owen felt Mr. Fluffles behind him trembling. Scared but unharmed, Owen kept his arms spread wide, his body a barrier between danger and his friend. Please, Owen said, looking directly at Overseer Meln. Please do not hurt him. Halth stepped forward, his face unreadable. Then he looked at Mr. Fluffles, really looked at him. At the creature wearing a hand-knitted blue sweater. At the deadly predator who had not fought back even when attacked. At the Shraketh who chose to hide rather than kill. Explain this, Director Halth, Overseer Meln said slowly. Explain why there is a Shraketh on this colony, wearing a sweater, and why this human is protecting it instead of fleeing from it. Halth met Owen's eyes across the chamber. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Halth said, That is a very complicated story, Overseer. Then you had better start explaining, Overseer Meln replied. Now? The emergency conference room had never held such an unusual gathering. On one side of the table sat Overseer Meln and his Velrathi delegation, their expressions ranging from confusion to barely contained anger. On the other side sat the human colony leadership, with Nira at the center looking remarkably composed given the circumstances. Director Halth stood at the head of the table, looking like a man facing execution, and in the corner, wrapped in thermal blankets with Owen sitting beside him, was Mr. Fluffles. 3 months ago, Halth began, his voice steady despite obvious discomfort. I authorized a psychological warfare operation against this colony. The target was Owen Fletcher. The weapon was a Shraketh, designation Shraketh 7, bred specifically to induce terror in humanoid species. You sent a bioweapon to terrorize a civilian? One of the human representatives, a man named David, looked ready to explode. That is an act of war. It was meant to be untraceable, Halth continued. The creature would appear. The target would suffer psychological breakdown. Word would spread, and the colony would be abandoned without direct military engagement. It was approved at the highest levels of military intelligence. Except it did not work, Overseer Meln observed, looking at Mr. Fluffles. Why? Halth gestured to Owen. Because Owen Fletcher did the one thing we never anticipated. He showed it kindness. Owen spoke quietly from his corner. I was lonely. He appeared. I saw someone who might understand what that felt like. It is a predator, Halth said. Not a person. He is a person to me. Owen replied firmly. Mr. Fluffles made a soft chirping sound and pressed closer against Owen's side. Overseer Melon rose and approached Mr. Fluffles. The creature tracked his movement but did not show aggression, merely alertness. The Overseer studied the sweater, the way Mr. Fluffles stayed close to Owen, the obvious bond between them. Shriketh are designed to be the perfect weapon, Overseer Melon said slowly. They feed on fear, amplify terror, break minds. This one has done none of those things. Why? Quinn, who had been included in the delegation specifically for this situation, stepped forward. The Shriketh bonds to strong emotional energy. We designed them to feed on fear because fear is universal, easy to exploit, but this human showed no fear. He showed affection instead. The creature adapted. Adapted how? Overseer Meln asked. Its entire behavioral programming rewired itself. Instead of hunting, it protects. Instead of terrorizing, it befriends. The aggression instincts are still there, but they have been redirected. During a colony emergency 2 weeks ago, it used its body to seal a critical pressure breach, nearly dying in the process. It has integrated into human social structures. It plays, it seeks affection. It has become, for lack of better terminology, domesticated. You cannot domesticate a Shriketh, Halth protested. And yet, Quinn gestured to Mr. Fluffles. Here we are. Overseer Meln returned to his seat. This is unprecedented. The military implications alone are staggering. If humans can turn our weapons into pets, what does that mean for any future conflict? It means war would be pointless, Nira said. If we can find common ground with a creature literally designed to terrify us, we can find common ground with each other. Idealistic, one of the Velrothi officials muttered. Perhaps, Nira agreed. But look at the evidence. That creature saved 200 human lives during the pressure breach. Not because of programming, not because of orders, but because it chose to, because it cares. If a bioengineered weapon can learn compassion, what excuse do we have for continued hostility? The room fell silent. Owen watched Overseer Melon's face, trying to read the alien's expression. Finally, the Overseer spoke. I want to see it, he said. The bond. Demonstrate it. Owen stood slowly, approaching the table with Mr. Fluffles following close behind. The security officers tensed, but Overseer Meln raised a hand to stop them. Mr. Fluffles, Owen said softly. Sit. Mr. Fluffles sat back on his haunches immediately, looking up at Owen with all 6 eyes focused and attentive. Paw. The creature lifted one clawed hand and placed it in Owen's palm. Owen shook it gently, then released. Mr. Fluffles's bioluminescent patterns pulsed happy blue-green. He knows 17 commands now, Owen said. He understands complex instructions. He feels emotions. He gets scared, happy, sad. He has preferences about food and sleeping spots. He has nightmares sometimes, and I wake him up gently so he is not afraid. He is not a weapon anymore, Overseer Meln. He is my friend. He is Mr. Fluffles. As if understanding the importance of the moment, Mr. Fluffles moved closer to Overseer Melon and made a soft questioning sound. Not threatening. Curious, may I? Overseer Melon asked Owen. He will let you know if he is uncomfortable. Just move slowly. Overseer Meln extended his hand. Mr. Fluffles sniffed it carefully, then pushed his head under the Overseer's palm. The gesture was universal. A request for affection. Overseer Meln hesitated only a moment before scratching behind Mr. Fluffles's head. The creature made a deep rumbling purr. Extraordinary, Overseer Meln murmured. He looked at Halth. You were right about one thing, Director. This is dangerous, not because of what the creature might do, but because of what it represents. Overseer? Halth looked confused. It represents possibility. Overseer Mellon said. The possibility that we are not locked into eternal conflict. That even our deepest weapons can be transformed by compassion. That perhaps humans are not our enemies but potential allies we have been too afraid to understand. He stood, addressing both sides of the room. I came here to negotiate territorial boundaries, to enforce the Empire's claims through diplomatic pressure, but I find myself facing a far more important question. If we continue on our current path, we remain adversaries, competitors for resources, suspicious neighbors armed and watching each other. But what if we chose differently? What are you proposing? Nira asked carefully. A partnership, formal recognition of this colony's legitimacy in exchange for cultural exchange programs. We have much to learn from each other, clearly, and I believe starting with Mr. Fluffles here might be the foundation of something historic. David leaned forward. You want to study the creature? I want to study the relationship, Overseer Mellon corrected. Owen Fletcher has demonstrated an ability to bridge impossible divides. That is a skill worth understanding, worth cultivating, and perhaps if we can bridge this divide, others will follow. Over the next hours, they negotiated. Terms of partnership, exchange programs, shared research initiatives. Owen would continue caring for Mr. Fluffles, but Velrathi xenobiologists would be allowed to study the bond in non-invasive ways. In return, the colony received full territorial recognition and access to Velrathi medical and engineering knowledge. It was decided that Mr. Fluffles would become the official ambassador of interspecies relations, a title that made Owen laugh until he cried. Nira would oversee the cultural exchange program. Halth, surprisingly, volunteered to be the Velrathi liaison, stating that he needed to understand how his greatest failure had become something more valuable than any success. 6 months later, Owen stood in a much larger HAB unit, specially designed to accommodate both his needs and Mr. Fluffles. The walls were covered with photos. Owen with Mr. Fluffles wearing different sweaters, each one hand-knitted in increasingly elaborate patterns. Nira teaching Mr. Fluffles to play cards, with the creature appearing to understand far more than anyone expected. Overseer Mellon's official visit photo, with the stern Velrathi dignitary actually smiling, while Mr. Fluffles sat between him and Owen. His tablet chimed. A message from his sister Rachel on Earth. She had finally received his explanation about Mr. Fluffles along with pictures. Her response was simple. Only you could accidentally end a Cold War by adopting a nightmare monster and knitting its sweaters. Mom wants to know if Mr. Fluffles needs a scarf for winter. I love you, little brother. You are insane and wonderful. Owen smiled and showed the message to Mr. Fluffles, who tilted his head as if reading it. What do you think? Want a scarf? Mr. Fluffles made an enthusiastic chirp and bounded toward Owen's knitting supplies, dragging out the yarn basket with clear intent. All right, Owen laughed. We will make you a scarf, but you have to pick the color. As Mr. Fluffles pawed through yarn options, eventually selecting a bright red, Owen reflected on how strange life had become. He had been the loneliest person in the colony, counting down days until his contract ended so he could return to Earth and remember what connection felt like. Now he ran interspecies cultural programs. He had friends, both human and Velrathi. He had purpose beyond maintenance logs and system repairs. And he had Mr. Fluffles, who wore sweaters and was learning to knit his own projects, though his claws made it challenging. The universe was vast and often hostile. But Owen had learned something important during these months. Sometimes the things meant to break you become the things that save you. Sometimes weapons become friends. And sometimes all it takes to change the course of history is one lonely person who decides to show kindness to something everyone else fears. Owen picked up his knitting, needles, and started on a red scarf while Mr. Fluffles curled beside him, purring contentedly in his collection of sweaters, safe and loved and home.